Hey everyone, just a quick video today, just to kind of show you the project that I've been working on at the moment. I've not had that much time to make videos for YouTube. I've also been posting on social media less because, between working on my own projects and work, it's quite a lot to juggle. Time is just not a luxury I can afford right now. So I'm not really posting as much, but for this drawing, I'm kind of working on like a big figurative piece over here. And I thought, what would be a good idea is to show you some of the steps involved. I can show you the sketch. So basically, the idea for this composition is to draw like I'm basically, the concept for this is a bunch of soldiers marching. So I've been doing a lot of drawings of Romans, and so I'm just really interested in Roman history. But yeah, basically, so this is the sketch here. So this is on an A3 piece of paper, and you can see this is like the Roman legions sort of marching, and you got like the cohorts and the centurions leading them. And this was a fairly quick sketch. It still took a fair bit of time just because of the detail involved, I guess. But yeah, this was sort of the concept for it. And this is the big drawing. So right now the size of this is, it's just over 100 centimeters wide and about 60 centimeters tall, maybe 65. So it's just a bit bigger than A1, I think. But so this is basically the first step involved, which is, figuring out the perspective and placing the key figures on the page. And the key figures are the figures that are basically in the foreground. So they're the ones that you're going to see the most of. Because, if you place your key figures properly, then the figures in the background are a bit easy to draw. But this is how I go about drawing a large figurative scene. And you'll notice that the figures are pretty basic in this stage. It's just their heads are just boxes, and the arms, the limbs are just cylinders. So I'm not really thinking about anatomy in this stage just yet. This stage is all about perspective. So you can see here, these are the figures like in the foreground, closest to the viewer. You might be able to see very faintly, there's some vanishing lines here and where the feet are. And they're traveling to that distant vanishing point right there on the horizon line. And that's a pretty important landmark, I find, because when I was, developing this composition, you want it so that the drawing is moving the viewer's eye from one side of the page to the other side. So placing the figures here and then making them vanish to the horizon line here kind of helps draw the viewer's eye across the composition. You'll notice I've got like a couple of figures, like this guy and the horse. He's sort of looking this way, which also leads the viewer's eye to push it on this side. And you've also got this figure in the foreground looking back. So, it's leading the viewer's eye back this way. Also, the guy who's carrying his spear, he sort of like got it resting on his shoulders. And the spear tip, which is going to be right there, that moves the viewer's eye across that way. So when it comes to, large figurative compositions, I keep it pretty dynamic. I don't really adhere to the Baroque diagonal or any kind of geometric tricks. I usually like to use the figures to lead the viewer's eye, if that makes sense. And I've noticed that in a lot of like the Russian artists' compositions. There's a very good book called Fundamentals of Composition by Vladimir Mogilevtsev, and he talks about how large figurative artworks like this, they didn't use geometric composition or Baroque diagonals or anything like that. They really just scattered the figures on the page and then just used light, color, and tone, as well as the placement of the figures to develop the composition. So, so it's very basic, but I thought this is like, you know, I just thought I'd show you the first stage, and this is the very first stage of the drawing, just placing in those key figures, getting the proportions in check, and making sure that the perspective is correct. I can show you some of the character designs that I was doing. So this is obviously the Signifer, or Signifia, don't know how to pronounce that one. But he's the guy at the front of the cohort, you know, with the, you know, the flag or the poles or the signum. They had a few different variations of this, so, and you'll see that in the last composition. Over here we got the Centurion, so this was a more detailed character design of him. And I still need to finish the feet. I just kind of took a break from him because he is pretty tricky. We've got a color study of this guy. So this is kind of the preparation that sort of goes into making a big piece, really. You got to do detailed character studies and then do color variations of them. So I'm just kind of working out the colors of his uniform and some of the lighting effects there, some of the shadows cutting across his face. That's not finished. I'm going to do another layer on that maybe today, and I'm going to glaze over some of these highlights in the metal, just warm those up a bit, make them a little bit more golden. Since it is meant to be, I'm thinking like a sunset or sunrise kind of setting, you know, like the sun is quite low and you kind of get that more, you know, like those warmer tones. That's kind of what I'm going for. These were just a bunch of head sketches, just trying to, again, just draw from imagination. So, you know, I try to draw everything from my head because it gives me complete creative freedom. And, you know, to draw a large composition like that, you're going to have to. You're going to have to do it from your head because there's just no way you're going to get enough references to guide you through the overall composition. You really do need just a solid grasp of perspective combined with anatomy to pull something like that off. So these were just a few, you know, playing around with shadow shapes. I think I did a video of this guy actually. You know, some of these characters aren't going to be in the final composition, but it was just practice, really, just practicing with basic anatomy and shadow shapes. Here you can see like there's some eyes, you know, like drawing the shadow shapes of the eyes, very simplified designs, but I like some of these, and so I'll probably put some of those in the final composition there. But really just trying to figure out what kind of shadow shapes would look good in the larger drawing. And there's many more sketches which aren't here. But yeah, it's been a lot of preparation, but this was really the first step, just kind of recording the idea. And yeah, I like it. I like where this is going. I like where the final drawing is going. I mean, this is much larger. And so this is going to be a drawing, but I'm also hoping to do an oil painting of it in the future. Yeah, but I want the oil painting to be bigger. And that's the thing, when you're drawing like large scale compositions, even if it's a sketch, I think it's a good idea to work on a large scale, because, you know, smaller drawings aren't always easier. A lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just draw small because it's quicker, but I find that that's sometimes not the case. Sometimes you need to just work on a larger scale to figure out some of those problems, like, you know, where the shadows are going to go and all the more technical nitty gritty stuff. So I'm hoping that this entire drawing will be rendered to a finish similar to these guys, which is going to be a hell of a lot of work, but I think I can do it. But I'll keep you guys updated. I'm going to chip away at this. This is a massive project, man. This is going to take me a long time, which is why I've been focusing all of my energy into it lately. But I'm going to place a few more key figures. I need to fill up this space. I think I want a few more horsemen, like a bit more cavalry in the distant background, and maybe over here as well, just to fill up that space. But and then once I've got the figures in, then I draw the armor on top of these basic silhouettes. And then once the armor is on, then I go back into the anatomy, like the faces and whatever part of the anatomy is visible, I'll then draw it in a much more detailed way, you know, figuring out all of the planes of the human body. Just the parts that are visible, you know, I don't have to draw it all. They're going to be wearing clothes, so there's no point trying to go too detailed in the anatomy there. And then, yeah, once the anatomy and the armor is drawn, that's when I start plotting some shadow shapes. And yeah, and then, yeah, with the shadow shapes drawn, that's when I begin rendering. So there's a few stages to go, but it's getting there. I think it's looking pretty good, and yeah, I'm quite happy with it. I'm quite excited to see the finished result, but man, it's gonna take me a long time.